Hello friends, thank you so much for watching my previous videos and sharing and commenting my training sessions throughout your channel. So today we are going to discuss one of the very important topic of IT asset management, because unless and until we understood the foundation of ITAM, it would be bit difficult for us to understand the critical part of software asset management and hardware asset management. In order to have much clarity and better understanding about software licensing and software compliance and software audit, it's important to have good understanding about the life cycle of hardware asset management as well as software asset management. So in this video we are going to discuss more detail about the life cycle of ham and life cycle of sam. So before we begin to discuss about the life cycle of software asset management and hardware asset management, I would like to request you to do subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share this video if you really like it. It would be more appreciated because it will help me to come up with new topics in item, and definitely you will enjoy your weekend with this learning series of IT asset management. So without wasting time, we will start discussing about the life cycle of IT asset management, which includes ham life cycle as well as sam life cycle. So as I said, ham is going to be the foundation for sam. That's the reason hardware asset management life cycle is also more important than sam, because ham will come first and then on top of ham we can implement the sam. So let's begin. So we have multiple phases when it comes to the life cycle of IT asset management, and the first phase of IT asset management is going to be the planning. So planning is the first phase of life cycle of IT asset management, be it ham life cycle, be it sam life cycle. So we will try to understand the ham life cycle as well as sam life cycle parallelly, so that it would be much easy for everyone to understand where is the difference, or where can we find such kind of difference when it comes to the ham life cycle and sam life cycle. So planning needs to be done including ham as well as sam management. So if you are talking about hardware asset management life cycle, planning is necessary. Same will be applicable for software asset management life cycle. So what does it mean by planning, and what kind of planning we guys have to think? Or as a item professional, what kind of planning we will be doing? So whenever there is a need of any asset in your organization, even any employee joins your organization, in case of new hire or the existing employee of your organization, in case they need any kind of asset, they will have to get in touch with item team. If it's hardware, then they have to get in touch with ham team. If it's software, then they have to reach out to the sam team. So there are different channels, different ways to get this request fulfilled based on your organization. Sometime your organization may have a ticketing system or ticketing tool which is helping your employee to submit the request and get the required asset. Some organization may have the proper flow of filling the online form, and that will directly goes through different phases, and this is how they can expect the requested asset. So planning needs to be done at management level as well as item level, because it includes budgeting, forecasting, and the financial management. So depend on the requirement, which is coming from business. Item team needs to plan. They have to understand what they have already available in stock, how many requests are in pipeline, would you be able to fulfill the end user's requirement on time. So thinking from all of these aspects and try to deliver the best item services to our employees or to the requester is going to be the main motto of doing the planning when discussing about the life cycle of IT asset management. So planning is going to be the first phase. The next to the planning, we have to think from the requirement point of view. Who requires the asset, what kind of asset is requested by end user, or what is the need of end user. So based on the need or the requirement, the end user has to submit the request. So submitting and request is going to be the one of the very important thing, because without submitting request we won't be able to understand what exactly end user needs. Does he need laptop, does it need desktop, or he is having some requirement of software. So in order to understand the type of asset requirement, it is really important for us to understand what kind of asset has been requested by the end user. So while requesting the asset, end user has to fill the all the required details. They have to mention the type of asset, they have to mention the quantity, they have to mention their business group, they have to mention their cost center, and again they have to select their manager. It's very important to select the appropriate manager to whom that end user is reporting, because the next phase of the IT asset management life cycle is going to be the approval. Doesn't matter what kind of asset you are requesting, approval is going to be the very important part. Once end user submit the request, that request will go through the manager's approval to whom that end user or that requester is reporting. So why that approval is required? Because manager is the one who can take the appropriate call, who really understood the business requirement. Manager knows what their reportee required. If they require, they will definitely approve the request. If there is no such business requirement, then definitely manager will deny that request or reject that request, and this is how that request will get over at that point only, and there will be no certain phases come in picture. But if manager approves the end user's request, then that request will definitely goes for the acquisition. So when it comes to the acquisition, so before doing the acquisition, acquisition is nothing but the purchasing the requested asset. So before purchasing the requested asset, that request will go for validation with item team. If end user is requesting software asset, then that request will go for SAM team. If end user is requesting hardware asset, then that request will go for HAM team. So depend on the type of request, the appropriate item team will take care of that request, and they will have to do the validation. So what kind of validation and verification item team is doing? So item team needs to understand if requested asset is already available in the stock. If it is available in stock, then we are good. We can simply go ahead and do the asset allocation, and it is also called as asset provisioning. So asset allocation and asset provisioning are the same, but we have to keep in mind, we have to understood the stock, or we have to validate the stock before doing the provisioning. So provisioning is really one of the important factor. So why it's important? Because in order to understand the availability of the asset, we have to validate the stock. If requested asset is available in stock, then we can simply do the allocation. Allocation is nothing but the tagging the requested asset on the end user's name or their employee ID, so that we can keep a track of which asset has been handed over to which user. So what has been assigned to whom. So this is really very very important thing, because if you miss to do the allocation, then you won't be able to find the owner or the actual user of that specific asset. So that's why asset provisioning and asset allocation is going to be one of the very important aspect which needs to be taken care by the item team. If it's software, then SAM team will take care of this activity. If it's hardware, then definitely HAM team will take care of this allocation activity. Now we are done with the allocation part. We have tagged the appropriate asset on the name of requester. Next to that, we have to think about the deployment. So what is deployment? Deployment is nothing but doing the actual handover asset, handover of that asset. So if end user has requested for laptop, then we have to hand over that laptop to the end user, and that team, that activity will taken care by the ham team. But before doing the handover, ham team has to take care that requested asset or the asset which we are going to hand over to the end user, it is configured and ready to use. And that's really one of the important part which ham team needs to take care. If it's software, then in case of software request, we cannot do the physical handover of that asset, because it's going to be the a virtual thing which we have to install on end user's machine. So software is something imaginary which we cannot touch to it. It has been embedded or developed in by using different programming language. So it's a source code or the executable file which needs to be installed on end user's machine. So there is a separate team who is going to take care of the software deployment or the software installation. That team is called as service desk team or IT support team or IT help desk team. So depend on the structure of your organization, that specific team will take care of the software deployment. So item team is not going to do the software deployment. Sometime, depend on your organization, your management may ask you to do that activity, but as per the item standard or the preferred practice, we have seen that in each and every organization there is a dedicated team who is doing the software deployment, is called as service desk team. So now we are done with the handover of hardware asset and the installation of software asset. So that is your asset deployment. So we are done with the deployment. What will happen next? So once we have done the deployment of asset, then that asset has been already given to the requested user and it is ready to use. So during this phase, the end user will start using that asset, and while they use the asset, what is the role of item team or the SAM team or ham team? So it's not over, because we have to keep monitoring the usage of asset. We have to make sure that whatever the asset we have handed over to someone, whatever the software we have installed on someone's machine, we have paid for it, right? And we have to make sure that the end user is taking the appropriate benefit of that asset. They are using it. They are not just sitting idle, or it should not be like the laptop is powered off since last 2 3 or 4 months, or maybe software is installed on their machine but it's not getting used. So in order to validate this information, item team has to understand the usage of that software. We have to make sure that the end user is actually using that asset, be it software or hardware. So monitoring the usage of asset is one of the very important thing which is getting done by the item team. So why we are doing monitoring? Monitoring is just helping us to understand the actual use of asset, if end user is using that asset or not using. Then again, what else we are doing, or what's the next phase of the item life cycle? So during the usage of that asset, be it software or hardware, if end user faces any challenges, any problem, any issues occurred, in that situation, they will reach out to you. If it's hardware issue, then they have to get in touch with service desk team, be it software or hardware. They have to get in, first of all they have to get in touch with the service desk team or internal IT team in order to see if they can resolve their issue. If they would be able to fix out that problem, that would be well and good. If our local IT support team not able to solve your problem, in that situation we have to get in touch with vendor. If it's software, then we have to connect with the software publisher in order to get the service or support. If it's hardware, then we have to look for the hardware vendor, be it Dell, Lenovo, then we have HP, we have Apple. So depend on the vendor from whom you have buy the product. The item team has to coordinate with this vendor in order to get your product service. But we have to make sure that before reaching out to the vendor, we have to verify if our product is within warranty, if our software is having active maintenance and support, then and then only that vendor or publisher will entertain you. Because without having software subscription and support, we cannot expect support from the software publisher. And without having hardware warranty or the active hardware warranty associated with your specific hardware, we cannot reach out to the vendor, or we cannot claim for the warranty or support from the vendor like Dell, Lenovo, or HP. Let's take an example. If your product is if your product is not having active maintenance and support, and you are reaching out to the publisher from whom you have bought the software. It can be IBM, it can be Microsoft, it can be Oracle, VMware. So these are the top publishers. And if your product is not having active maintenance and support, will they entertain you? Will they support you? Never ever. We cannot expect support from them, and they will never entertain you. So in order to get the support, it's very important for us to validate the warranty of our product. If our product is in warranty, then and then only we can expect the support, and a vendor will fix out our issues. So that's the importance of having service and support with your product. And throughout the usage, sometimes we may found that someone doesn't require that software, depend on their usage or the usage tracking with the help of some discovery tool. If we identify that someone doesn't require the software, which they are not using it, we may transfer the same software to the another user, because we have an opportunity to optimize the cost. There is no need to buy the new software, as we are not using the software which we have already purchased, and it's having the license or active license and maintenance. We can simply transfer the software to the another user. But before doing the transfer, we have to make sure that publisher has given an authority to transfer that software to the another user. That is called as software transfer right. So we can do that transfer in only one situation: if publisher has been granted the software transfer right. And in case of hardware, we know that because of some reason your employee is planning to leave, or they have already resigned from the service and they are going to leave our organization. So before leaving the organization, they have to resubmit the asset to the ITAM team, and the that recollected asset um, needs to be reused. So item team will take care of that asset, and they will reassign, or maybe the share that same asset to the another user who need it. It's kind of asset transfer. Maybe we can recollect that asset from one user and give that same asset to the another user. So that will happen. But let's take an example. If there is any asset which is not in working condition, and again it's out of warranty, so what needs to be done in that situation? So this is going to be the most important phase of item life cycle, and that is going to be the end phase. If your product is not in working condition and it's out of warranty, in that situation we have to send that asset for the disposal. And asset disposal is going to be the final step of your asset management life cycle. I'm talking about hardware asset management life cycle. So what there are multiple ways to do the disposal. So disposal Like some companies do the disposal by sending that asset to the scrap. Some companies are taking or maybe resubmitting that asset to the vendor for refurbishment, and some companies may donate this asset to the NGOs. So depend on your organization and the standard process which your organization has been set up. You may have seen that your company is doing disposal by referring these these steps, or maybe by this way they will be doing the doing the disposal. So disposal is going to be the end of hardware asset management life cycle. Now, how come we conclude that the end of software asset management life cycle? So software asset management life cycle will get over by doing the uninstallation of software. If your product license is expired, you doesn't require that software. In that situation, we have to get that software uninstallation or uninstall. So uninstallation of the software is going to be the end of software asset management life cycle. So when we have to do the uninstallation, if you have bought the subscription based product and your subscription is over, in that situation you are not authorized, you are not allowed to keep that software installed on your machine. So we have to get that software uninstalled. Then in second scenario is that if there is no need of that software, you are done with your project, and it doesn't require that software. So in that situation also we can do the uninstallation, or we have to uninstall that software from end user's machine. So these are the few phases which we all have to always keep in mind when it comes to the IT asset management life cycle. So in short, before winding up the session, we will summarize the phases of item life cycle. The item life cycle will start from the planning, then it will move to the submitting the request based on what kind of asset your employee will require. They have to submit the request. Is it hardware or software? So based on the request, that request will go to the manager, his or her manager, for the approval. Once manager approve the request, that request will go to the item team. If it's hardware request, then it will go for the ham team. If it's software request, then that request will goes to the sam team. So depend on the requirement or the end user's requirement, that request will getting managed by the item team. So once that request is with item team will validate the availability of asset. They will make sure that requested asset is available into the their catalog. If it's available into the stock, then they will definitely do the allocation. If it's not available, then they will get in touch with the procurement team in order to get that asset purchased. Okay, so next to that, they will again do the allocations. They will onboard that asset and they will do the allocation. And in case of hardware, it needs to be done the handover. In case of software, that needs to be installed, and we can do the installation with the help of service desk team or IT support team. So once we've done the deployment, then we will end user will start using that hardware or software. During the usage, item team will do the monitoring of that software or hardware, if it's getting used or not. If end user faces any problem, any issues while using the software, then they will have to ask for the service or support. Once, if our product is in warranty, then we can reach out to the vendor for the asking for the support. If it's hardware, then we will have to get in touch with hardware vendors like Dell, HP, Lenovo, Apple. It depends on what kind of hardware is having issue or which needs to be serviced. If it's software, then we have to get in touch with the software publisher like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, VMware. So these are the top publishers. If you are using their product, then you have to get in touch with the appropriate publisher in order to ask the service and support. so that you can use your keep continue using your product easily. And then in between you can do the transfer of the software from one user to the another user if you are having the uh, transfer right. In case of hardware, you can recollect hardware from one user who is leaving your company, and you can reuse the same hardware to the another user who might be joining newly, or who is having requirement of hardware. So we can do the transfer of asset. Then final is going to be the retirement or the disposal. So in case of hardware, if our product is not in warranty and not in working condition, we have to do the disposal. So disposal is going to be the end of hardware asset management life cycle, and software uninstallation is going to be the end of software asset management life cycle. So once we are done with the usage of any software and we don't have the active software license and maintenance, we have to make sure that we have uninstalled the software. If you fail to uninstall software, then that is going to be the audit issue, and you will have to pay the penalty, because you cannot say that that software is just installed on my machine and I'm not using it. You cannot claim that. You will have to pay the penalty. So in order to avoid the future penalty, it's always better to get the software uninstalled which we are not using and which is not having active license or active license and subscription and support. I think we are done with the phases of all the IT asset management aspect. We like I have tried my best to cover up all the phases of IT asset management life cycle, including hardware asset management as well as software asset management. I hope you all enjoyed it. You people will like the way I have presented it. But still, if I miss something, if people have any feedback, feel free to write it in comment. I will definitely improvise it and I will come up with new topic in the next week. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I really appreciate your time watching this video over this weekend. Thank you so much guys for your love and support. We'll see you in next weekend. Enjoy your weekend guys. Thank you so much. Bye.